in one fell swoop, uh, more people have started talking about sustainability, and that the fact that we are uh, very close, or we are probably on the tipping point where our disregard for nature or our excesses of consumption are concerned. I think if there were 10% of the people believing this, I think now we would at least be at about 30 to 35%.
Hi, and welcome to Travel Dine. Today we have with us again Ms. Shobha Mohan. She's the founder of Rare India. You're all obviously are aware of it already if you're interested in sustainability, which is a very important subject and also a very catchy catchword in hospitality today. But Rare India is a company of birth. It's a community of some of the finest conscious luxury boutique hotels, palace stays, wildlife lodges, homestays, retreats across India and the subcontinent. And Ms. Mohan, in her capacity as founder of it, and she's always been a passionate sustainability crusader. And she's on several boards of organizations that work towards this. She's on the Responsible Tourism Society of India board. She's an ambassador for sustainable travel. And and somebody who's done some really worthwhile work in this sphere. So today we'd like to again touch base with her to find out, what exactly is changed now in during the pandemic, with the way people are looking at tourism. Have they kind of changed their perspective on what they look for in a destination or in a stay when they travel? So welcome, Ms. Mohan, and happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Priya. And yeah, it is indeed a pleasure to be talking to you also, because I remember I had a very, very animated conversation with Deepali some time ago. It's great to be on Travel Dine. I think that was Travel Gram and this is Travel Dine, right? So
Had
this is
a
the
rebranding, yeah.
You had a rebranding,
Yeah.
fantastic, yeah. So it was, lot of things have happened and a lot of things have stayed where they are. What has happened? I mean, the best thing out of this pandemic, lots of if you discount all the sadness of people losing jobs and people losing their loved ones, this uncertainty that happened for 18 months, is that there's a greater awareness. I think in one fell swoop, more people have started talking about sustainability, and that the fact that we are uh, very close, or we are probably on the tipping point where our disregard for nature or our excesses of consumption are concerned. I think if there were 10% of the people believing this, I think now we would at least be at about 30 to 35%, right? And for me, that's a win. I mean, that's a win. And it's not only travel. I believe that every business has to take into account what it is that where do they stop and how much is enough? Where, at what point growth becomes detrimental? It becomes it kind of it's like this monster that kind of starts to turn around and start eating you up in ways that you don't know anything about, right? Till it actually is on you and it's devouring you. So I think travel is very visible, and because it's also one of the first things that gets affected for everything, right? Which is why I think travel is a great pin-up pal, right? So you can see and you can visually, whether it's transformation. Again, travel is a great consort, because if you when you travel and you see, you learn, you transform, you come back with new ideas. You kind of get more and more aware of what is happening, right? Like they say in Tamil, they say only when you have died before do you know the way to your graveyard, right? Would you know the address to the crematorium or the graveyard? But in this case, travel actually ensures that you kind of will be looking at Travel ensures that you can go look at the issues and come back and do something about it, or you can go and look at solutions to these issues and figure out how you can be a participant in it, right? So travel does this in various ways, and I think the despite the fact that travel, the very essence of travel is that you have to burn a certain amount of fossil fuels to get somewhere, from one part of the world to the other, or between from one end of the country or from one state to the other. uh, if done if done with thought and mindfully and with awareness, the amount of good that can come out of travel, both personally and uh, both for the community and the destination, I think are manifold. And which is why they say travel can be a great change maker. It can be a personal change maker, because I don't know, it's like waking people up. Once you are awake, there is no way you can go back into a dungeon, right? You're now awake and you're aware. So I think that's what happened to the travel business in the pandemic. And for that, I'm really grateful. But are we all there? Are we all, are we all doing sustainable travel? And is sustainable travel really that word that you're looking for? All of this is still open to debate, speculation. But one thing is clear: you have to start relooking the way you have lived your life, done your work, run your business, created your empire and everything. You have to take a good look at it, because what you did, or what we were all doing so many years ago, is not, in that sense, it won't be a new normal. If you go back to being what you are, we haven't learned the lessons the pandemic is supposed to teach us.
Absolutely, well said. And but I wanted to say that when you're saying that people have started thinking differently, of course there are varying degrees, like you say. Everyone's not at, say, 100%. Some are just starting off on the journey, some are not even on taking the first step. So how do you go about really converting people? Because see, when we're talking about these subjects, a lot of the time we're just preaching to the converted. Everyone's who's on that same page agrees, and they say, yes, we must do it, or we're trying our best. But there are people who say, yes, they like the idea, but when they're at a place, at a resort, and say something like they want air conditioning or they want hot water right now, if they don't get it, then it's then they don't care about sustainability or whatever, anything eco-friendly. So how do you convert such people? We've talked about it, everyone's had these discussions, but obviously when it comes to on-ground luxury
reality,
so how do people, when you're talking about luxury travel and conscious luxury travel, how do you make a person conscious that
that's a very important point in this whole journey towards sustainability. Are we only preaching to the converted, right? Yes, in a bit, yeah. You are right in that sense. But how do you bring about this as a mass movement? How do you get more and more people involved in it? So it has to be, a mix of, in travel, it has to be a mix of a personal endeavor. It has to kind of, the sentiment or the thought and awareness and mindful travel and all of that has to run through the whole value chain, from the traveler to the travel agent, to the stakeholder, to the hospitality, to the government agencies, to the lawmakers, right? Only then that this whole line is complete. So because if the hotel business, some of them are very important cogs, but suppose the hotel is practicing 100% sustainability. The traveler is not aware of it, he's not interested in it, and the travel agent is convinced a little bit, but he wants to do his business, so he's just sent him away and said, yeah, it'll be everything you like will be there. But the traveler, when he comes there, if he doesn't understand why I'm giving him filtered water and I'm not doing plastic bottles, I'm going to have a problem there. So this whole sentiment has to move from from stakeholder, from through all the stakeholders right down to the actual person traveling. Now, where travelers are concerned, and one of the tour operators whom we work with quite closely actually put this up and said, travel can be that change. I mean, if he till he goes and sees that, that there is a different way to travel, there's a different way. I mean, bottled water is not the answer. Till that actually, hits him, it's not likely that he will, till it actually hits him, or till it actually dawns on him, he probably will be quite unaware of that, right? That's on one side. So that's one side where the hotel itself becomes that transformative. It's actually, promoting. And I mean, I'm a great example. I learned all of this through the business I was in, right? And of course, in bits and pieces, my children bought this home. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people who believed in this kind of a thing. And the more you listen to it, the more you kind of become very, very aware of these kind of things. So that is one thing. The second thing is, you have to personally be a believer. I mean, you can't just get up tomorrow morning and say, on my travel I'm going to be I'm traveling, and because I'm traveling I'm going to be a responsible traveler. You have to, as a world citizen, you need to start thinking about the impact that you're creating, right? So that's the two different parts of a traveler. A traveler who's unaware goes to a hotel which is creating the environment for him to become aware. So that's one type of change. Another thing is already a traveler who's aware and who's demanding from a hotel that, what, you still use plastic bottles? Don't you know what is happening? We don't use plastic and things. So the demand creation is from the traveler end, right? So change is not a run from point A to B usually, Priya. Change is a slow wave-like process. It will go up and down. You'll suddenly see a spike when pandemic like this happens. And people ask me if it bothers me that some people ham it. Or we do this with all this marketing jargon going there.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm quite okay with people hamming it and shamming it. It's okay. Because at some point, आपको राग भैरवी आ ही जाएगी. How much can you ham and sham, right? So once you are putting it out there, you will probably start to become aware of it. I mean, I'm hoping. I'm just hoping, because the more you start thinking about it, and then of course, if everything starts working in tandem, that the government is starting to put policies, and if the tourism has some ecotourism policies, and if everything starts working around it, I think the change can be massive. What is looking like small bits, little movements, personal endeavors and things like that. Somewhere these are larger changes that are happening. Probably you're not able to perceive it just now, but eventually, it's all going up to a larger cause. So I believe that's how it will go. I mean, that's how tourism, that's how change will happen, before suddenly turning it on its head and it becomes like a mass movement. I mean, imagine if there is a demand for it, right? If everybody starts to say, listen, you know what, plastic, I mean, sorry, we don't drink plastic. So the whole industry will stop. It is just that there are very few people asking and saying that, right? The more and more people. So for people like you and me, media, marketing companies and things like that, our job is to create that framework for awareness, right? And once that happens, and I think then, it will actually hit a point where it will be a very steady run, towards the goal.
So what, according to you, do you think are the stumbling blocks when it comes to hoteliers? Because, of course, there is profitability, which is all important. And, and it obviously takes some amount of investment, some amount of effort to make these things happen. So, you must have seen a lot of, maybe hoteliers who were, maybe wanting to do it, but not sure how, or others who thought it's not worth the effort, put in. So what are the things, the points that really can help hoteliers who want to do it, but, just are not equipped yet?
Any hotelier who, in this day and age, in the last 5-6 years, anybody who is not making that effort is doing this out of sheer laziness or out of sheer stupidity. I mean, they put their head under soil, under the sand and think it is night. That's the thing. Because just putting their head there, because it is staring you in the face. So there is no question of creating this. They just don't want to make that effort. I refuse to believe that they are not aware enough. I refuse to believe that they don't want to do it. None of this is a possibility. Is that plain laziness, and is the easy route out, because kaun jhanjat yaar kya karege, that kind of stuff. Aur yaar chalne do apna shobha ji bahut. So this is plain and simple. I mean, and of course, I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying that everybody wants to take the easy way out.
So do you feel like government policies would help to kind of put some rules in and get people
even government policies in a country like India, if the rules are not strict enough, people
cannot enforce.
I mean, they've been saying on and on that Gurgaon is plastic free, but the ready walas tell me कि दीदी हम नहीं रखते हैं तो वो सब्जी फेंक के चले जाते हैं. So you see what is happening, right? So there is the ready wala who's aware of the government policy. The government has taken out the policy, but the vendor, I mean the guy, the buyer, if he is not willing to listen to this and check the see, so what is happening here, right? So we are all not on the same plane. I mean, right? And this gentleman doesn't have the ability to explain the repercussions of what that is happening. And I'm telling you, this is even well-to-do people. पैसे भर रहे होते हैं अपने बच्चों के लिए, घर बना रहे होते हैं अपने बच्चों के लिए, इधर इतनी लैंड ले ली मैंने, उधर उतनी लैंड ले ली. मैं कभी कभी पूछती हूँ, सर पानी का क्या होगा, आई मीन, और हवा का क्या होगा? आप तो 5-5 गाड़ियां लाइन करके रखे हो, इसका क्या होगा? और पानी बड़े बड़े मोटर डाल के आप पानी यू आर लाइक pumping out water, what happens to the water table? So it has to be everywhere. I mean, I don't want to sound very negative about it, because I keep thinking that, slowly and steadily, and the children will get into it. They will start asking those questions, and they will start pushing their parents to this. See, we are largely a very consumer-driven society, right? And success is measured by how much you have. गाड़ी नहीं है, अरे, so immediately your mind is, some गरीबी बेकार. अरे मेट्रो में जाती है, गरीब बेकार. अच्छा ये गाड़ी छोटी है, गरीब बेकार. I mean, we are conditioned to खाली रोटी और एक दाल सब्जी खाते हो, गरीब बेकार. I mean, so we have completely, we have completely forgotten. I mean, we've completely, made these images in our head, right? बड़ा सा बेड नहीं है तो गरीब बेकार. So these are images that the consumer goods have put out in front of us. घर पे टीवी नहीं है तो oh my god, I mean, but hello, it's just fantastic. I mean, sit down and talk to each other, I mean, so these are things that we are all victims of, consumer driven marketing. कपड़े, ये ऐसे कपड़े पहनोगे तो आप सुंदर लग जाओगे, आप पतले हो तो सुंदर हो, मोटे हो तो, I mean, all of this, who says? I mean, it's just all driven. If you're fair, you are, I mean, these are all perceptions that have been fed into our heads, and we like bhed bakri, we follow this paradigm that has been created. And that's the same thing with anything to do with excesses, which kind of again take us to the thing. And I mean, everything is a fad. I mean, almond milk, you shouldn't drink milk, you should drink almond milk. I mean, socho bhai, अगर सारा दुनिया, I mean, वैसे ही अगर if you have to create almond milk for the entire 7.3 billion people on earth, you will have to cut down other trees and plant almond trees only, no? Right. So and this is monoculture, एक ही tree होगा दुनिया में, जहाँ देखो almond tree ही बैठेगा ना. और जहाँ गाय की वजह से जो ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस या जो इश्यूज डेयरी इंडस्ट्री के साथ हो रहे थे वो इस इंडस्ट्री के साथ so the one of the big problems is just the sheer number we have, and it's not that we don't know what to do with it. I mean, in fact, I'm telling you, our scriptures, our traditions, they knew all of this. It is coded in our scriptures. If you read your Rudrashtakam, I mean, if you read this Shiva Puranas and things like that, it starts off by saying that Prithvi mein sharira sthit, your body is a part of the earth, right? Yeah. So we've just forgotten all of this. We've forgotten all of this, and it is said traditionally, and I mean, Hinduism that way, for people who understand it and who can take it in the right spirit. I'm not very religious, but I really I love the stories and the values that are created through these stories from the Mahabharata and Ramayana and things like that, or any other religious text for that matter. I mean, it is said that if you are, I mean, we have the 4 stages in any life. Life is made up of 4 stages, which is the life of when you are a baby, when you are a child, and your job is to eat and build your body, right? And then the next stage is when you are a youth, and that's when you have to build your mind, right? Build your body and build your mind. So you're eating and you're building. The minute you become a grahast, that is, you bring a wife in and you have a child, your food from this becomes this. And that's when, and once you have a child and that child goes into his grahast or his stage where he's ready to have a child, you as the adult or the parent, you've gone into vanaprastha. That is when you start retreating, and your food from this becomes this much, like one muttivar. And by the time you go into sannyas, you've almost given up everything. So imagine if you live that philosophy, the pressure on earth is so much. I mean, how less the pressure would be. So we've kind of forgotten all of this, and to live in awareness is also to find value and to find value, and also to find inspiration in all of this, to find understanding in all of this, rather than just letting it go. किसी ने कुछ बोला है उस टाइम पे लगता होगा हम ऐसे हैं ना, हमारे लिए जो बढ़िया है. I mean, Draupadi is great, so we will keep talking about Draupadi and those days, polyandry we are very happy about. But these things are beyond us, because ये चीजें के लिए तो काम करनी पड़ती है ना. So essentially, this whole craziness around why we are so blind to see what the effects of what we are doing, our excesses, is simply because we are lazy. I mean, it's easy, isn't also, it? Rather than carry
in this era of very conspicuous consumption and social media, where people are always trying to show what they have. So how does one brand sustainability or regenerative tourism as something which is of worth, so that people want to aspire to it and they want to show that off as well? So, and how to reach the masses with this, because I'm sure there is a big section of society already doing that, but you need many more people.
This conversation, Priya, is getting into everything. They're talking about clothing, it's getting into food, it's travel to hai. It's getting into every bit of the industry. I mean, there is nothing you can do. I mean, what are all these electrical cars and all about? So it is going everywhere. And
is it reaching the masses? Because it's reaching.
No, it is not. It is not. Because we are looking at. You are looking at the demand and saying, "Abhi gaadi hai," so you want to, because that consumer is looking at electrical cars and things like that, and electrical cars ki Tesla ne leke aa gaya, so you want to be like Tesla and things. But who is creating that narrative? How many advertisements are there that tell you that, okay, if you kind of how many ads that you've seen that tells you, listen, if you actually start to use an electric car, listen, this is what it does to you. Who's taking the trouble to go and explain it to the masses, right? So it is these companies that will have to go on, but wo to bolenge nahi. क्योंकि अभी तो ट्रांजिशन स्टेज है ना, ये नहीं है कि सारे गाड़ियां इन्होंने इलेक्ट्रिक कर दिया. वो जो हायर एंड, बिकॉज इलेक्ट्रिक कार्स आर एक्सपेंसिव राइट नाउ, आई मीन इट्स मोर एक्सपेंसिव देन योर नॉर्मल normal petrol or diesel cars. So they are like skimming the top, and that is because they want to keep up with the. So the day they dig into it and say, well, this is my philosophy, then they will start doing their R&D will be centered around how to do it. Their marketing will be talking about it. It should begin with the point of awareness. Now why are they getting electric cars? Not because they want to change the mindset. That is not their focus. Their focus is, if there is a little bit of a market that has come for electric cars, they have to capture that market. Yeah, we can't be left behind. But the day they start to think, well, ये नीचे से शुरू होता है, हम masses से awareness build करके हम यहाँ पे लेके आएंगे, right? That is when the change happens.
But then how do we apply this thought process to hotels? Because again, hotels are also charging the earth to save the earth, literally. So how do you then bring it down to the absolute LCM?
See, yeah, I mean, I quite agree with you. The reason why hotels are charging the earth to save the earth is because the demand is very low.
Sure.
The demand for those kind of plus and then on one hand, I mean, Bare Necessities is an organization I follow, and I really love what they do. They do a lot of eco-friendly products, and one of the things that they were actually writing about is that, oh, we are expensive because of this. They are expensive because it is not because they are expensive, it is because the other people are selling cheap.
Okay.
It is not, and it applies across the board. It applies for artisanal food, it applies to
anything
organic food, anything which is not mass produced.
Yeah.
So you are producing mass, and you're producing it en masse, and you are saying we are able to produce cheap because we are producing en masse, and that is detrimental. And what we have here, where you don't want to, I mean, where these are artisanal and small and boutique, and this one, these are not expensive. These are you perceive it as expensive because they're taking there is R&D behind it. There is the design is very different. There are not many people who would, I mean, the entire science behind building environment friendly vernacular, the environment friendly architecture is something that was a part of our living and lifestyle. It is gone. Abhi aapko if you have to find these mud tiles, the clay tiles, you'll have to find people to do it because there is no demand for it. The demand is for flat roofed cement houses, which is impractical in very hot and very cold areas, which is I mean, it's ugly, right? But I mean, but it is quick, easy maintenance. This is what you're measuring everything against, na? पैसे कितने लगते हैं, टाइम कितना लगता है, मेंटेन कैसे होता है. So अगर आप ये पैरामीटर्स पे सब कुछ मेजर करें तो you will always err in the on the opposite side of saving the planet.
Absolutely. So now tell me, you have literally, I think, honed the art of spotting like properties which have all the right, they have of course sustainability, but also the right ethos. They have like you're always talking about having compelling stories. So how do you go about the process of actually searching for them, finding them? Because I think that's something everyone like envies about you, that you really have this knack for.
Actually, I don't have the knack. I've been lucky and I'm blessed that the first few hotels that came on board Rare, first of all, let me give you a disclaimer. Not everybody on board Rare is a 10 on 10 where the attributes for sustainability or responsible travel are concerned. For us, if they come on board with 3 or 4, that is the way forward. I mean, I always say that it is better to I mean, you want every person of the 7.3 billion population to do sustainability or responsible living imperfectly than have about 100 people do it perfectly. that kind of, so you have to put everybody, you have to put them on the wheels, on the journey towards this one.
Yeah.
So that is one. So there is not, I don't know, I can't say each one of our hotel is 10 on 10. Having said that, there are about 10 to 15 people. Even they won't agree if you call them that they are 100% there. In fact, they won't accept it at all. Yeah. So it's a journey. Right. There is no, because the supply chain, the supply chain is still, things still come in large plastic bags and things like that. If anybody says that there's zero waste, I would really like to take a look at at their operations, because it is very difficult, because you kind of start to say, okay, I'm going to buy thumbs up bottles which is recyclable and things like that. I'm not going to buy those PET bottles, but they all come packed in plastic, Yeah. So that is the thing. And so where is the part? So there are about 15-20 people who really are very serious about what they do, which is energy consumption. Energy efficiency. The design. You can't build 400-room hotels and then start clambering over and say, how can I make this sustainable? It starts at the design phase. You have to design. It has to, from the design phase, you start thinking sustainable. You start thinking lighter footprint. You start thinking energy efficiency. So this is where all these large, big hotels that, mar our landscape, they go wrong. Where they should have been only a 10-room hotel, because there's no carrying capacity for anything larger than that. And carrying capacity means, I'm not saying that they're crowding the malls and the roads. The carrying capacity also means how much that land can take. How much junk can you, how much garbage can you recycle there? Is that land being able to take it all? So it starts in the design phase. It can't start, after. This large hotel chains do put out these lovely things saying, oh, this responsible, that, that sounds fantastic, but it is still a very, it still has to be integrated at design. You can't, later on, it's an afterthought, right? So that is one. Secondly, among our hotels, and we've been lucky, and I've been lucky, and for me, this has been a university, because the first 5 to 10 hotels that came on board literally lay the blueprint for what Rare would look like today. we learned with every hotel. So एक होटल ने बोला हम तो ये plastic bottle कभी करेंगे. So we from the beginning we are moving towards, we are using used wine bottles, and we are using that for water. Somebody said we are 100% local community operated. Somebody else said something else. So these were like very, very, very strong people with very strong ideas about how they would like to run their lodges and things like that. So those 10-15 people literally laid the foundation blueprint for what a Rare hotel could look like. The rest, everyone else is on the way. They would, maybe it's a conservation project where an old Haveli is being has been preserved, so that an old edifice and can live on and mark that period of time in history. So that is the thing. So I can't take credit for having any of these hotels on board. Most of them write to us. A lot of them, I must say, we reject a lot than we actually accept. There are some people I go after, who I think will really add value to what we're doing at Rare, right? So we do that. And also the thing is that in a community that is talking about this vocally, it's also for me, instead of 1,000 rooms sitting in one place and talking about change towards, a sustainable or a responsible living. These are small hotels sitting in different places, and each of them able to influence a little community, able to influence that tribe, so that kind of stuff. So I think that is where we look at. And it's with great, with deep gratitude that I acknowledge that hoteliers continue to like the kind of work we do. They might not sign up with us, they might work with somebody, but they do like to call up and speak and say, okay, how can we get to write this better and things. So that's something I really appreciate, and I take no credit for it.
Well, you should. A little bit at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So also I wanted to know now, now that slowly things are opening up. I mean, have you had inquiries, with inbound travelers, and what's the sort of what's happening now in the travel world according to you?
Yeah, there is a little bit of upbeat. There is
Yeah.
suddenly there is this sense that things are going to look better in the first week of October. And suddenly there is, I mean, I've been inundated with work. I think this is the first day I've sat in the office till about 6 o'clock. Otherwise, I usually go off at 4, go for my walk, and then I sit down and start working again. But today is the first time I still have a long to-do list that I haven't done. So it's looking with very tentatively, with the grace of God, looks like we are headed for at least, maybe not as early as October or November, but at least by December, January, I think we are going to be getting out there. I think that's likely to happen. I mean, even if it comes by January, not full-fledged, even if 20-30%, I think it will save a lot more jobs. It will save a lot more. It will save a lot of people. And it will just create so much positivity around people, because it has been one of the saddest things for me is to look at my colleagues and figure out that shit, unpaid EMIs, really struggling with this thing. We ourselves, our company we haven't been able to pay full salaries, and my team has worked very, very hard the last 18 months. So yeah, if things are looking up, it just looks like, when a hotelier calls and says, the good thing is that all these hoteliers found they found their voice with the Indian travelers, and the Indian travelers found nostalgia in the destinations around them or in India. So that is the big thing of this one. And I think when once the balance, once the up and down, once the seesaw kind of stabilizes, I think there'll be a little bit more inclusive and dynamic approach towards a strategy for the domestic market, and that I'm very glad.
That is really heartening, and one hopes that happens. Do you feel that the Indian traveler, like you're saying, has not only nostalgia, but do you feel they've evolved in the way they're thinking in these last few months, vis-a-vis international travelers who maybe would have been more conscious travelers in the past?
Definitely. And this is just not about travel, really, Priya. It's also because children are bringing these thoughts home. The climate change issues are being talked about and things like that. It must be the most obtuse of human beings, or the most uneducated of human beings, who thinks that this is not mine, mere backyard mein nahi, kahin aur ho raha hai, mere ko kya problem hai? Orissa mein baad aa rahi to main to Delhi mein main safe hu. If somebody is thinking like that, there's nothing you can do. But I think the awareness quotient is definitely going up, so that you can't. I wouldn't discount that, and that's the success. That's the advantage of this crisis. It doesn't have too many advantages. The only advantage is this.
And could you also explain this? When you talk about regenerative travel, so what exactly does that mean in actual terms?
So basically, it was a word coined by one of my favorite environment crusaders, Anna Poller. And basically what she means to say is that, sustainability means जो जैसा जहाँ जो जैसा है, उसको वैसे ही sustain करते जाएं, है ना? जैसे आप अभी जंगलों में, and preserve it the way it is, because and it's a great thought, because imagine this, that जैसे आप अगर ये सोचो कि for instance आप एक जंगल एरिया में चले गए. Let me give you an example on this. The tiger population now is 2,967. Everybody went rah, 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 rah. Why? Because they are comparing it with 1,400 tigers, 1,444, according to the 2013 census, I think. So when you compare that, so the 2,967 looks very good, right? But don't look at that 1,444. Please look at 50 years ago, when we had 70, just before the independence, when we had over 10,000 tigers and counting. So you are counting yourself with your benchmark is very, very low. These are called shifting baselines. You're actually comparing it with a crisis situation and say, wahan se to ye better hai. Your comparison is wrong. You're comparing it to a time when it was really low. So that is the thing about regenerative travel. So when you're saying sustainability, अगर if I was doing sustainable travel, मुझे 1400 को 1400 पे ही रखना था ना. But मुझे 1400 को लेके my aim is to get it back to 10,000 tigers. So if I'm talking about, so that is regeneration, taking the environment back or the habitat back to its original health.
So, but how does a traveler do that? I mean, I can understand hospitality chains doing it or a small boutique place indulging in it. But
yeah, so by making the right choices, no, Priya, just you making the right choices.
No, like
now,
see, break what it down is your just for our listeners, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just look at it this way. So there is a hotel, there is a wildlife lodge where we have spoken, okay, they do this, they do that, and your children can learn. There is so much about environment there. It's a conservation oriented. They have very light impact on this thing. They're on 25 acres. There's only 12 cottages and things like that, but they charge you about 25,000 rupees. I'm saying this.
Yeah.
And then you have another lodge who says all these same things. Hum bhi ye karte, ye bhi karte, but we are 5,000 rupees, right? Now, as a traveler, right? Because the 5,000 looks lucrative for you and the narrative is almost the same, what will you do? A responsible traveler will get into it, and anybody who's a little bit aware, he'll say, kar nahi sakta ye 5,000 rupees mein. And giving the same amount of luxury and space and things, agar ho nahi sakta ye. Aur kamre dekhe ka rahe, yahan to 70 kamre hain, ye to ho hi nahi sakta. है ना, in the vicinity, in the periphery of a buffer zone area is about 70 rooms. That much garbage, that much this thing, that much water consumption. So ये हो ही नहीं सकता. So once you start thinking like that, with awareness and with logic, it's plain logic, right? How are you going to why will you choose this hotel, right? You will probably go back and say, argue them down for a price for the 25,000 rupee hotel and say, yeah, can give me a thing, and which happens, which is okay because Indians are great deal drivers. So that's fine. I mean, that's okay to do. Similarly, there is a heritage hotel, which, they painstakingly restored it, and heritage restoration is very expensive. So it's a hotel that is that's priced at about 14,000 rupees. They've employed the local community. It is a standalone hotel in that area. And on the other side, you have another hotel, a chain hotel, that talks about luxury, this swimming pool, big buffet, and this and breakfast anytime, la di da, whatever have you. And they say that they're going to give it to you at 7,000 rupees. Now, again, if you're not aware, for you that 7,000 rupees looks lucrative. What would an aware person and who's thinking in the terms of regeneration and responsible travel, he will think like this. He will say, oh my God, if I go and stay there, what will I be contributing? I will ensure that an edifice which is 350 years old sustains, and I give it new life. Because if I don't use it, it's going to crumble and die again anyways, right? They have taken the effort to restore. Mostly they're all private restoration. So that is the thing. Secondly, the community is working there. I mean, what you see as service is only one thing. Karigar kaam kar rahe hain, and an entire art form probably has sustained. And something this creates more. It's a blueprint for more such projects to come up. Your choice has a ripple effect in various things. So that's how you will probably think about it. Provided and you're actually giving it a lot of thought, and instead of asking कि अरे वो तो 5,000 में दे रहा है, आप भी 5,000 में दे दो, 5 में मेरा आगे बनता नहीं है, because it's not a cookie cutter hotel. So yeah.
So I also wanted to ask you just one last thing. Do you have any message for either travelers or the hospitality industry on the occasion of World Tourism Day?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a message. I mean, I'm just saying we have to do this together.
Yes.
We have to do this together. This is for our future generation. This is to right all the wrongs that we have done. I mean, I can't say that I've done. I mean, I've gone through I've done the excesses and things like that. This is to right all the wrongs we have done. This is to right all the wrongs our parents have done. And we owe it to the next generation. So please think before you say, all I need to do is put a pump and pull that water out of that, and so that I can, you bring in water and hose down my cars. Think twice before you think that, before you just keep ripping at the tissue paper to wipe your hands. Think twice before anything that you do. Where there is a choice for you, you can always carry a little towel with you. Think twice before you demand that, you want you want something, you want extra this and extra that, which you eventually will probably waste. Think twice, because all of this weighs heavily on the environment. And if there is no earth, there is no future generation. I mean, there is not going to be. And we are already quite far away from a solution. I mean, every day is a step further away from the solution. Because every time a politician says, this is, unka, how can they impose anything on us? उनका तो डेवलपमेंट तभी हो गया था, हमारा तो अभी हम डेवलपिंग नेशन है, तो क्या होगा? So the things उन्होंने करा, गलत करा तो गड्ढा खोद दिया पूरे दुनिया के लिए. They've kind of, I mean, if the Amazon cult, it is impacting the entire universe, you want to contribute to that? It's something that you need to think about. It's not a competition between what they did and what we did. It's the one earth. Boundaries are only political boundaries. There is no boundary, right? The ripple effect of any degradation, any excessive fishing, garbage, anything is manifold and goes across. I mean, it'll go around the earth. So this is something that people will have to understand. I mean, you can't say, oh, in Tamil they say kahin pe ho raha hai, hamare liye kya, wo to बिहार में फ्लड्स हैं, असम में फ्लड्स हैं, हमें क्या? It's not like that. I mean, eventually it is going to catch up with us.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll spread the message, and
yes, we have to spread the message. Yeah. In our rebranding story, the reason why we put the ginkgo leaf, which is our, is that little golden leaf that you see, is to tell people. So ginkgo biloba is called the maidenhair tree, or it's called a living fossil because it predates the dinosaurs, and you can find it. It started out in the East. I mean, you could find the early specimens are found in the East, and today you can find it anywhere around the world. It's a beautiful tree, and my delight when I found the ginkgo biloba tree in Kashmir, I mean, it goes into this golden yellow during the fall, and it's absolutely stunning. So I believe that the reason why the ginkgo biloba leaf is found everywhere in the world, and I'm sure there must be other plants like that, right, is simply because somebody took the trouble. किसी माली ने इसको बोया है हर जगह ले जाके, right? And that is how conservation, or that is how sustainably or responsibly living responsibly is. You kind of pass the word around, you inspire others, you seed an idea into another people, and it goes from person to person, and till it becomes a mass movement, till people will, you all start thinking alike. You start, because we're all set on one thing. We need to keep the planet and have it protected for the future generation. मेरे को बड़ा बुरा लगता है जब मेरे बच्चे बोलते हैं कि अरे बच्चे पैदा करेंगे, बेचारा अब ये अर्थ होगा कि नहीं पता. Who wants to bring children into this earth? And rightly so, right? Absolutely. But it needn't have been like that.
Thank you, Shobha. The analogy for the ginkgo biloba was really interesting. And thank you for this fascinating chat we've had. Wishing Rare India all the best, and hoping that the entire tourism sector revives and regenerates. Thank you.